Silverstein continues to put out great music every couple of years, and I swear, I feel like every new album they make gets better than their last one. Sometimes when a band has been around for 25 years, I feel like their music just isn't as good as it used to be, and they might be kind of washed out, and fans aren't as interested in their newer music as their older stuff from like 20 years ago. But I'm happy to say that this is not the case with Silverstein. What's up, guys? My name is Hayden Radcliffe, and welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to be looking at the 25-year-long history of Silverstein. Right now in 2025, it seems like Silverstein is having their busiest year of their entire career so far. They have been touring non-stop this whole year, and they're putting out 2 separate albums. And for a band that's been around for 25 years now, that's really impressive. I think that bands who have been around for that long, if they wanted to, could easily just like make a new album every 4 or 5 years and then go on tour like once a year and call it good. But Silverstein refuses to do that. They go hard every single year. They're non-stop. They get on that grind, and I love them for that. Silverstein, if you may have not been able to tell, is one of my absolute favorite bands of all time. If you're new here, welcome, and if you love emo, pop punk, or post-hardcore music, then I would love it if you'd consider subscribing. It seems like Silverstein continues to break new barriers with every new album that they release. And even after 25 years, the band continues to get new fans every year and be just as popular or even more popular than they were 20 years ago. So, how did a small group of guys from Toronto, Ontario manage to beat the odds and make it out of Canada to end up becoming one of the most highly regarded and iconic emo and post-hardcore bands of all time that have now released over a dozen albums over their 25-year career? That is what we're going to be finding out in this video. Alright, Silverstein consists of Shane Told on vocals, Josh Bradford on rhythm guitar, Billy Hamilton on bass, Paul Kohler on drums, and Neil Beauchart on lead guitar until Paul Marc Rousseau took over in 2012. So for the most part, their lineup has stayed the same for the past 25 years. Silverstein started in Toronto, Ontario in 2000, and they released their early demo and EP called Summer's Stellar Gaze that same year. And in 2002, they released another EP, this time called When the Shadows Beam. And these 2 EPs, along with some other additional songs, were put together for an album in 2006 called 18 Candles, The Early Years. Now, in my opinion, if you listen to either of these EPs, they sound pretty damn rough. And I don't think that the band would disagree with me here. But it must have been good enough to get them signed to a record label, because in 2003, they signed to Victory Records and released their first full-length album, that is The Wrong Side, When Broken is Easily Fixed. Personally, I think this is my favorite album artwork from any Silverstein album. I just love the robot with the metal heart pulling it out of its chest. I think it's just such a cool depiction of what this album is. This album definitely comes out swinging right from the gate. They had 2 big songs on this album that have continued to be some of their biggest hits to this day. The first one being the opening track, Smashed into Pieces. And the second track being Bleeds No More. My heart bleeds no more! Now again, I think if you listen to this album and you really pay attention to Shane's vocals, it doesn't sound that great. And I think that Shane has even said before that he simply didn't know how to sing very well when they made this album. It's their first album ever. The band didn't really know what they were doing. So I think some of his vocals do sound pretty rough around the edges, but that's also what gives it that nostalgic early 2000s kind of raw feeling that I think a lot of fans love. Now at this point, the band is in their either early 20s or late teens, and you can definitely tell with like Shane's voice. Now Shane's vocals on this album are also a lot higher pitched than they are today, especially with the way that he screams. And I think it's just simply evolved over time and gotten better and better. But this first album overall is a really great album, and if you haven't heard it, I definitely recommend checking it out. Okay, next up is their second album from 2005, Discovering the Waterfront. This is probably their most popular album that they've ever released. Their most popular album of all time is from this album called Smile in Your Sleep. They also have another big hit from this album called My Heroine. This is definitely the fan favorite album, and it seems to get the most love at concerts also. My favorite song on this album is called Always and Never. Next up is the album that the band, and especially Shane Told, states as the band's worst album ever. And that is their third album from 2007, Arrivals and Departures. Now, it hurts my heart every time that I hear the band say bad things about this album because I actually really love this album a lot. I wouldn't say it's my favorite from the band's discography, but it's definitely one of my favorites. This album actually has my favorite song by Silverstein of all time called Still Dreaming. Which again, unfortunately, is Shane Told's least favorite song that the band has ever written. It's really a bummer, but I am glad that they still wrote it and released it. Silverstein, if you see this, please play Still Dreaming when you come to Nashville in December. Now, apparently from what I've read about the album, and a reason why the band doesn't like it very much, is because they just felt super rushed when recording and releasing this album. I think I read somewhere that Shane had to record all of his screaming parts for this album in like one night. And so because of that, I feel like the band rarely plays songs from this album anymore. And I feel like when they can, they'd like to just pretend that it doesn't exist anymore. But back in 2022, the band actually did a repressing of this album on vinyl for Record Store Day, and I went to the record store and I bought it in person, and I was so happy to finally have this album on vinyl. So I feel like with this album, there's actually a few songs that are pretty pop punky instead of like post-hardcore, kind of like Still Dreaming. There's also this song I love called Love with Caution. Okay, then in 2009, we have their fourth album, A Shipwreck in the Sand. This is the band's first take at doing a concept album, and it actually has 4 different chapters throughout the album. Now, I think that this album is super good and has a lot of really great songs. This album also has their longest song of all time called The End, which features lights. How more emo or scene can you get in 2009 than having a song with Silverstein featuring lights on it? And recently I saw that Lights actually came out and performed with Shane Told and Silverstein playing The End live for the first time ever with both of them on stage. I think that's so cool that they actually managed to bring Lights out 16 years after recording this song to perform it live for the first time. So the overarching theme of that album is about a ship that crashes in the sand and there's a captain on it, and it basically is a metaphor to resemble a betrayal in a relationship. And I think it pretty much talks about a man and a woman who are married and in love, and then something really bad happens and the woman betrays the man, and then the man ends up getting his revenge by burning the house down that they live in. But then everything seems to kind of rejoice and reconcile at the end. That's a very brief way to explain it, but it's a super great album that you should definitely listen to. Then in 2010, Silverstein actually plays 4 special shows at a venue called the El Macombo in Toronto, and each night they play each album in full. So the first night they play When Broken Is Easily Fixed in full, second night Discovering the Waterfront, and so on. Now this is the only time that Arrivals and Departures and A Shipwreck in the Sand have ever been played live in full. And thankfully we happened to get a live album of these 4 nights, so a few songs from each night are all compiled into one live album, And that's pretty awesome, and this feels like a really special event that happened, and they probably won't do anything like this ever again. But it's pretty cool, and there are some videos of some songs that they almost have never played again live on YouTube if you want to check it out. All right, in 2011, we get the band's 5th album, Rescue. I think this album has some of their best songs of all time, like the song Medication. We'll keep calm and carry on. And Sacrifice. I'm your sacrifice. And Intervention. This is also one of their albums that I feel like gets overlooked a lot and doesn't have many songs played from it at their concerts. And in my opinion, that's a shame because some of these songs are really, really awesome. In 2012, the band wanted to mix things up and release a really short album full of a bunch of different really short songs. Now, I don't really count this as like a full-length album by Silverstein. In my opinion, it's kind of like an EP because the songs are so short, and I feel like the band doesn't even really like this album very much anymore. It kind of felt like a weird time in their career where they were just like trying new things and trying to figure out where they wanted to go next. And that's totally fine, and I do think that we got some cool songs out of this short album. My personal favorite being a song called Brookfield that also has a pretty cool music video. Now, even though I feel like this isn't my favorite period of Silverstein, it is my favorite period of the way that they looked. I'm personally a big fan of Shane Told's hair from this time. I really like when he had longer bangs, and it just made him look a lot more emo compared to the way that he has his hair now. But I also think that his new hairstyle resembles a greater change for the band, and that's totally fine. Speaking of change, I feel like their next album they made in 2013 called This Is How the Wind Shifts is another really drastic change and departure for the band. I kind of feel like Silverstein became Silverstein 2.0 when they released this album. I just really feel like the band wanted to take a giant leap with this album and just try a lot of new things and just really show what they could do. Now, there's something really cool about this album that I have never seen happen with any other album. So this album is a concept album, but it's mapped out differently than most concept albums are. So for every individual song on this album, each song has a parallel track on the second half of the album that ties into the first part of the song. So song 1 ties into song 8, and song 2 ties into song 9, and so on. This is a really cool theme that they did for this album. So when you listen to side A of the album, you hear the first part of each different story, and then the second half of the album continues it and ends that story. I feel like it just feels like something changed within the band when you hear this album. This is also the first album to feature Paul-Marc Rousseau on lead guitar, who I think has done a lot of amazing things for the band since he joined. Now, I feel like some of their biggest songs on this album would be Stand Amid the Roar, On Brave Mountains We Conquer, and Massachusetts. Then in 2015, Shane Told cuts his hair, changes it up, and we get the album I Am Alive in Everything I Touch. Also, just something noteworthy is that this is the last album to have that type of canvas painted album artwork. After that, they started mixing it up because I think the band was just tired of having the same type of artwork for every album. Kind of like what Dance Gavin Dance has done for all of their albums. Now, this album is also a concept album, but I feel like it's a lot more loosely woven through. Now, on this album, every song actually resembles a different city throughout North America. And this album definitely has some really great songs. My personal favorite is going to be Face of the Earth. But also Midwestern State of Emergency is a great song too. But also, this is another album that I feel like gets very overlooked by the band and from a lot of fans. I just don't hear much about this album, but there's also a really cool song on here that's pretty different than anything Silverstein has made before, and it's called Late on 6th. I didn't see the rain when it came down. Now, if this is how the wind shifts was Silverstein 2.0, I feel like 2017's Dead Reflection is Silverstein 3.0. Silverstein really wanted to change things up with this album. And I feel like once you get a few songs into this album, you can definitely tell the overall production just sounds a lot different. It's a big shift, but also if you can get into it, it's a really great album. You packed your shit and went ahead. My mind and soul were left for dead. There's also one song on this album that has become one of their most popular songs called The Afterglow. Into the afterglow. This song also is like a pretty good pop punk song. So now Silverstein's doing post-hardcore, pop punk, and some like alternative rock stuff. Also, I think the album artwork is so cool for that album. Then in 2019, we get a live album for When Broken Is Easily Fixed for the 15-year anniversary. The band plays the entire album in full live. Also that same year, we get another album called Redo, and this time they took 12 different songs from their first 4 albums and recreated them and re-recorded them, and they sound a whole lot better now. Just take a look at some of the songs off of When Broken Is Easily Fixed, and then look at those same songs on the Redo album. Okay, here's Smash Into Pieces from When Broken Is Easily Fixed. And now here it is from Redo. Doesn't that just sound like a million times better? Then in 2020, we actually got Redo Part 2. And the band wasn't originally going to do this, but then the pandemic happened and they had a lot of spare time. So they took some more songs from their first few albums and re-recorded and reproduced those too. This time they did songs from their first 4 albums, plus This Is How the Wind Shifts, and one song from their first EP that they ever did. But this time, instead of just re-recording the songs and making them sound better, they actually changed different aspects of the song to make it sound almost like a new song. For example, they changed the song On Brave Mountains We Conquer to On Major Mountains We Conquer. And there's certain parts of the song where Shane was originally screaming, where now he's actually just singing. And it changes it up, but I actually love the re-recorded version so much more. Also in 2020, we get Silverstein's 9th album, A Beautiful Place to Drown. Again, look at this album artwork. It's so cool. I also have this album on cassette. Now, I first became a fan of Silverstein in May of 2021. So it's been a little over 4 years now, and this was their newest album when I became a fan. But for some reason, when I first heard A Beautiful Place to Drown, most of the songs just didn't click with me. A few of them did. But I think it took me around a year to actually really get into this album. I think because if you're a new fan and you really like their old stuff and then you jump and listen to their album from 2020, it just sounds a lot different. The production is super different. Some of these songs on A Beautiful Place to Drown, I'm sure, are never songs that the band would have made back in like 2005. There's a song that's like a lot slower and it features a saxophone solo. Which, in my opinion, now is like super awesome and it's a great song. But if I was just wanting some serious, heavy, post-hardcore stuff, this album isn't really that. There are some heavy songs, but there's also some much softer songs. There's some more pop-punky, a little poppier songs, but that's okay. I think Silverstein does a great job at showing that they can kick ass in a bunch of different types of genres. And now I think this album is absolutely awesome and it has some of my favorite songs by the band on it. Also, this album got Silverstein nominated for a Juno Award, which I'm pretty sure is like a Canadian version of the Grammys, which is a pretty big deal. So hey, congrats Silverstein. One of their songs on this album, called Bad Habits, was actually really popular for the band, and it's become a fan favorite. I'm good with bad habits. But my two favorite songs on this album would be Say Yes, if you just say yes, and Stop. Before you came through, and I know that it's never gonna. In 2021, Silverstein released another live album, this time of them playing the album Discovering the Waterfront in full at the Starland Ballroom in New Jersey. This is their only album that's actually not on streaming for some reason. You can only listen to it on vinyl or on YouTube. But I think it's a really great live album, and if you haven't heard it, you should go listen to it. In 2022, I finally got my first new album from Silverstein while being a fan. And that was the album Misery Made Me. This album is so good. Like, I don't even understand how Silverstein can still make such fucking good music after 20 plus years of being a band. I seriously don't think that Silverstein has made their best song yet. And that's saying something, because Silverstein has a lot of really great songs. Now, in case you didn't know, Silverstein actually made a podcast about every song from this album. So if you haven't listened to that, it's available on, I think, every podcast listening service. So you should listen to it if you have some free time. It's pretty cool. But yeah, this album is awesome, and it has some of their best songs they've ever made. One song I love is called Die Alone, that I just feel like has some of the most hardcore, heavy headbanging that I've ever done in a song. And I think definitely one song that pretty much blew everyone out of the water when they first heard it was the song called The Altar/Mary. This is Silverstein's heaviest song to date, and it just blows me away that their heaviest song came out in 2022. That doesn't really happen anymore, but fans clung on to this song like bees on honey. Right away, they fell in love with this song, and the band never even thought that they would play this live when they wrote it. They didn't really think that fans would like it that much, but fans really liked it. The first half of this song is super fast and super heavy, and I think has like the heaviest, most hardcore headbang that I've ever done in a song. Yeah, so that's a great album. I also have it on cassette. Then in 2023, the band did a This Is How the Wind Shifts 10-year anniversary tour. And in 2024, the band was pretty silent. They didn't do much that year. They just wanted a break because they knew that 2025 was going to be their busiest year yet. And they were not wrong. In February, Silverstein released their first of 2 albums this year, titled Anti-Bloom. This album right here. Now I feel like we're on Silverstein 4.0. And I swear they did it again. Every single song on here is so awesome. Silverstein just continues to climb to that next level with every new album that they release. This album is so good, and again, it has some of my favorite songs by Silverstein of all time. I absolutely love the song Mercy, Mercy. Mercy, mercy, I'm begging, please, close your eyes and set me free. And I think that their song Confession is probably the best song that Silverstein has ever written. How many days? How many nights? And I think that Shane probably has the best vocals of all time on that song. We're just putting bullets in already broken hearts. And like I said, in just a few weeks, we're going to be getting the second album of the year. This one is called Pink Moon. Alright guys, well, I just traveled to the future, and now that new album, Pink Moon by Silverstein, is out, so let's talk about it. This video took longer than expected to make, but honestly, that's a good thing because now I have this album and my video I just made won't be outdated already. Pink Moon is obviously the follow-up to Anti-Bloom, and if you can tell, the albums have very similar artwork, which I think is really cool. I think if I had to pick, I might like the artwork for Anti-Bloom just a little bit more, but they're both great. And I feel like Pink Moon has some pretty great songs. I've still only listened to this album a couple times, but so far, my favorite song is actually the opening track called I Love You, But I Have to Let You Go.
I love you, but I have to let you go.
It's kind of a short song, but it's really melodic and it has great vocals by Shane. And it has this really old piano that they used from the Joshua Tree recording session. I think my other favorite song on this album would be Negative Space.
Change the focus, blur me in the background. Shudder to think that I could ever be found.
But between Anti-Bloom and Pink Moon, I think my favorite album of the two would still be Anti-Bloom. But this is still a pretty good record, and I'm always happy for more Silverstein. And I'm pretty sure the band recorded both albums last year while they were at Joshua Tree. And along with releasing 2 separate albums this year, the band has also been on tour all year long. They've been going all over the world, and it's been crazy. And I'm so proud of the boys for being able to do this all year long. Also, I do just have to shout out that Silverstein actually followed me on TikTok just a couple days ago. I could not believe my eyes when I saw this. This was so cool. I feel so honored and so grateful that Silverstein followed me, and then they messaged me and said that they love my energy. Because I have made quite a few different videos on TikTok about Silverstein because I love them so much. And I just want to say I am really thankful and appreciative of Silverstein for doing that. So thank you so much if you're watching. Right now, Silverstein only follows 4 accounts on TikTok. The Devil Wears Prada, Shane Told, their record label, Unified Records, and me. I think that is like the coolest thing ever. Now that's all of Silverstein's main albums, but there are a few other songs that they've made throughout the years that I want to highlight. My favorite of which being a cover that they did of the song Runaway by Kanye West, where they turn it into this really melancholy, guitar-driven anthem. And I think it is so good and I love it so much, and I listen to that song so many times. I've never even heard the original song by Kanye West, but at this point, I don't care and I don't want to. That version by Silverstein is the only version that I want. And I would love to hear that song live, but that's probably never gonna happen. They also did another cover of the song Apologize by Timbaland and Justin Timberlake.
It's too late to apologize. It's too late.
And they also released some covers on the deluxe version of A Shipwreck in the Sand by bands like the Beatles and Fleetwood Mac.
When I was younger, so much younger than today.
Silverstein also released a song with William Ryan Key of Yellowcard back in 2011, and this song was called Stay Positive.
And it's starting to come back to me. Yeah, it's starting to come back to me.
So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, Silverstein has continued to put out incredible music with every album that they release. And I'm pretty sure they have no sign of stopping anytime soon. Also, some other cool news would be that Silverstein is getting their song Skin and Bones released in the next NHL 26 video game. I'm personally a huge hockey fan, as you can see by this Arizona Coyotes jersey, and I just can't believe that we're getting a song by Silverstein in an NHL video game in 2025. That really shows how much emo music is making a comeback and how popular it really is. Skin and Bones has quite a bit of screaming on it, so it's pretty impressive that they're actually putting it in that video game. Also, if you want to know my favorite album by Silverstein of all time now, I'm pretty sure the answer is Anti-Bloom. But if it's not that, then it's Misery Made Me. Also, since I started making this video a few weeks ago, I've been talking with Silverstein a bit more, talking with them about ideas that they can implement to start growing their fan base with a younger audience, especially with their song Bleeds No More. I think that's super cool, and I love them actually getting to kind of work with Silverstein here. I'm really grateful and thankful, and I hope that there's more opportunities to work with them in the future. Even Hopeless Records reached out to me too. I think this is so cool, and this is why I love doing this. It makes me so happy. I'm really happy, I'm really proud about it, and I'm gonna keep on going, and I am not going to give up no matter what. What are your thoughts on Silverstein? Do you feel like their music has continued to get better and better over time? Or are you really only into their older stuff, or do you only like their newer stuff? All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. And if you like this video, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, tell me your favorite Silverstein album and how much that band means to you, because they mean a lot to me. Silverstein is one of my favorite bands of all time, and I love making these type of videos. Also, I've now passed over 315 subscribers, which is really cool for me. I know it's not a crazy amount, but it's really awesome for me. I would love to see a future where I can make this my career one day. All right, guys, see you in my next video. Peace out.